Some of the worst catastrophes in history weren't acts of nature at all. They were man-made. So today, we're going to explore the anatomy of these disasters. We'll break down the common patterns that turn a simple human error into an absolutely unimaginable tragedy.
Okay, let's just dive right into the big question, right? Are the worst disasters that happen on our planet just tragic accidents? Or are they, in a way, the inevitable results of the choices that we make?
So we're going to start with our first theme, the first domino. This is all about how one single, tiny action, something that seems totally insignificant, can light the fuse on a massive catastrophe. I want you to picture this. You're in Lima, Peru. It's just 3 days before New Year's Eve, and you're in this chaotic market called Mesa Redonda. It is absolutely packed with people, and every stall is just piled high with illegal fireworks. You can literally smell the sulfur in the air. And here's how fast it all goes wrong. A vendor decides, hey, I'll demonstrate one of these firework rockets. A single spark flies off of it and lands in a nearby open box. And what's in that box? Hundreds of other fireworks, and they all go up at once. In just a few seconds, a wall of fire just swallows 3 whole storefronts. The first domino has just fallen.
All right, let's jump to a totally different scene. It's 2015 at Taiwan's Color Festival. You've got over 1,000 people dancing, having the time of their lives, covered in this brightly colored cornstarch powder. It's a moment of pure joy, right? But here's the thing about that powder. On its own, it's pretty harmless. But when you spray it into a fine mist in the air, it becomes incredibly flammable.
Now, what's so horrifying here is the physics of what happens next. The idea was just to have a festive cloud of colored powder, but the reality? That flammable cloud hits the superheated stage lights, and it doesn't just catch fire. It creates this rolling, horizontal wave of flame that just sweeps through the crowd, right at chest height. Absolutely terrifying.
So those were really about individual actions, right? A single spark. But what happens when it's not just one person? What if the very systems that are designed to protect us are the things that actually break? Well, that brings us to our second theme, when systems fail.
And if you look at this table, you'll see this really chilling pattern start to emerge. For the Exxon Valdez, the system failure was a broken radar, made way worse by a slow human response. In the Mecca tunnel disaster, it was a failed ventilation system combined with a total lack of crowd control. And for the Balvano train, the system broke down because of wartime scarcity, which forced them to use this deadly low-grade coal. Different disasters, same root cause, a critical system failing when it was needed most.
To really get a sense of the Exxon Valdez disaster, just look at this number. We're talking about 11 million gallons of crude oil gushing out into the pristine waters of Alaska. It's just staggering.
And here's where that systemic failure really hits home. Of all that oil, those 11 million gallons, you want to guess how much was ever recovered? A measly 10%. The emergency response was catastrophically late, and they had no real plan for something on this scale.
Now let's take a look at Mecca, back in 1990. The Al-Mawassim Tunnel was a key passageway for pilgrims, and the failure here was all about crowd management. The space was designed for maybe 2,000 people. They crammed 5,000 in there, so when the ventilation system failed and panic set in, the outcome was tragically inevitable. Now with the Balvano train disaster, the killer was completely silent and invisible. See, because of the war, they were using this really cheap, low-grade coal. It didn't burn cleanly, so instead, it produced tons of carbon monoxide, an odorless, colorless gas that just silently poisoned hundreds of passengers who were trapped inside that tunnel. All right, so this brings us to our next big theme, the price of progress. These are the disasters where the relentless drive for industrial profit, or the desperate needs of war, created the absolute perfect storm for catastrophe. Imagine this. It's Halifax Harbor, 1917, right in the middle of World War I. 2 ships have a minor collision. One is just a neutral vessel, but the other one is a French cargo ship, secretly packed to the gills with explosives for the war front. We're talking TNT, picric acid, the whole shebang. It's a floating time bomb, and someone just lit the fuse.
When that ship exploded, it was just gone, vaporized. The blast killed nearly 2,000 people instantly and just flattened a huge part of the city. We have to remember, before the atomic age, this was the largest man-made explosion in history, period.
Okay, Now fast forward to London, 1952. The entire city is suffocating under this thick, yellow smog. But this wasn't just some freak weather event. No, it was caused by everyone burning cheap, dirty coal. And you have to ask, why? Well, the answer is simple: profit. All the good, clean-burning coal was being shipped overseas because it made more money. A business decision that had a deadly cost for the people of London.
And that brings us to our last, and honestly, our most sobering theme. What we're calling a deliberate catastrophe. This is an event that wasn't an accident or a mistake. This is about a system that was intentionally designed and operated for centuries, that was itself the disaster.
We're not talking about a single event anymore, not an explosion that happens in a day. We're talking about the Atlantic slave trade. This was a brutal, global economic engine, intentionally designed and refined for profit, which operated for over 300 years.
During that time, just try to wrap your head around this number. 12 million people were captured and forcibly transported from their homes, treated not as human beings, but as inventory, as cargo.
And of those 12 million people, it's estimated that 2 million of them died during the horrific journey of the Middle Passage, alone, before they even reached their destination.
And this is why the source material frames it this way, and it's so important. It says the whole thing happened for over 300 years. This stands as one of the greatest disasters against humanity. That framing is critical. It separates this from accidents and defines it as a prolonged, intentional atrocity.
So, after looking at all of these horrifying events, you have to ask, what's the takeaway? What are the echoes of these disasters? And maybe more importantly, have we actually learned the right lessons from these clear blueprints for failure? Because, as we've seen, the blueprints for disaster are alarmingly consistent. It can start with a simple domino effect, where one small error creates a huge cascade. It gets way worse when there's systemic negligence, when the safeguards we count on are ignored or just plain broken. It's accelerated when profit is put ahead of people's safety. And it reaches its absolute worst conclusion with dehumanization, the moment people stop being people and are treated as just inventory. Which brings us to our final, crucial question. Are we truly learning from the past? Or have we just gotten better at building more complex, more fragile sets of dominoes, just waiting for that next spark to fall?